Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Matt Bain from JB&A Distribution, and today we are going to talk about Christie's Pandoras Box. I'm super excited to share this platform. For those of you that haven't seen it, it's incredibly powerful and super fun to use. So with that, we're going to bring on Mike Steinbrecher from Christie, and he is going to give us the entire scoop on this great product. Mike, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, Matt. Yes, thank you, and thank you for having me here in the stream. As you mentioned, my name is Mike Steinbrecher. I'm Director for CMP, Business Development. And yeah, Pandora's Box is my baby. I'm mainly talking about today. I will touch the CMP part a little bit. CMP stands for Content Management and Processing, but we have a short look on that later. Where does Pandora's Box come from? Well, it was founded in 2003 by a company called Kulux. And from then on, it developed step by step. At the beginning, right at the beginning, it was only be possible to control by a lighting desk. But then very early, we implemented a GUI, an interface with a timeline-based programming you might know from After Effects or other programs. And by this, you can control Pandora's Box. We never stopped the possibility to control by a lighting desk. It's possible up to today, but mainly nowadays, the timeline-based programming is used. Let's jump into a quick PowerPoint. I would like to show you one or two images. Why did this change, or why is now the company named Christie and not Kulux any longer? So in 2015, we got acquired by Christie. Probably you all know Christie because of their great projectors and displays. But actually, Christie wanted to move in a new direction and be a manufacturer that can deliver you everything out of content playback, content transport, and then, of course, at the output, either a projector, an LED wall, or a display. So this is really the Christie idea, the One Christie philosophy, to be the manufacturer that can deliver you all the components out of one hand. So I touched it earlier, CMP, content management, and processing. So Pandora's Box definitely is the content playback device. And then we have another product called Terra. It's the one in the center. It's belonging to SDVoE Alliance, software-defined video over Ethernet. So here over a fiber cable, you can transport, of course, the image signal, but also audio, infrared, RS-232, normal network connections. So this makes it very sexy and flexible to get your signal from A to B. And then on the end, we have a big spider that was before that it was Vista company, and now also with Christie already since 10 or 12 years. And the spider is for distributing a lot of incoming signals to a lot of outputs. So these three products then together are a perfect mix. And this, as said at the beginning, is Christie's philosophy to offer anything out of one hand. Pandora's Box since 2015 now in Christie. We are happy to be in the Christie family. It makes it exciting and easier. And really with Christie, we got our foot into way more business areas than we had before. One of Christie philosophies is that we only sell into countries where all our products are certified to. So this opens projects like government, like military, where you normally don't have a chance to get your foot into. So for us, from a Pandora's Box point of view, joining Christie was just perfect.
Great, thanks, Mike. So you've given me a pretty good understanding of Pandora's Box, but maybe give me a better idea of how this actually fits into workflows.
Yes. Well, let's watch a video first, and then I will talk a little bit more about it.
What is Pandora's Box? Pandora's Box is a series of award-winning Pro AV software and hardware tools for show control, projection mapping, image compositing, and interactive applications. Pandora's Box offers an intuitive, layer-based real-time rendering system for creative digital lighting, video design, and live compositing. Up to and beyond 4K. Everything happens in a true 3D space. Position, rotation, and scale can all be changed on the fly. 3D objects can easily be imported and changed to ensure maximum creative flexibility. Users can choose between unique 2D or 3D workflows, depending on their project requirements. Our effects engine allows for the creation and combination of a great number of image and texture effects. Pandora's Box integrated digital keystone is accurate and can compensate perfectly for any off-angle projection. Pandora's Box systems offer soft edge blending for an unlimited number of projectors. And with our projection mapping technology, you can project onto almost any shape. Pandora's Box is modular and scalable, so you can match and sync any number of multi-resolution displays. And the Pandora's Box Widget Designer opens up a world of creative interactivity, augmented reality and custom interface creation without the need for specialist programming. Whether on stage, a broadcast set, or supporting an interactive museum experience, using Pandora's Box delivers your creativity on budget and on time. Pandora's Box.
All right, that gives me a much better understanding of where it fits. And there was a little nugget of information in that video that I caught onto, and it references a really powerful piece of Pandora's Box, and that's the Widget Designer. Can you go into that a bit more?
Yes, in a second. Let me just jump back to the Pandora's Box video first. So even though the video is a few years old, there was still our old Kulux company name. So it was right at the time where we joined Christie when this video was made. But it still perfectly explains in 2 minutes what Pandora's Box is. It's more than just a playback device, as we have all the effect engine and the keystoning and particle systems and all these extra stuff in there. It is more than a playback device, and some people like to say it's a real-time compositing tool. And one of our greatest features is also that everything you do in Pandora's Box, you do live and on time. So in a few other systems, you have to take out your programming of a rendering, you have to change it somewhere else, and then you upload it again to see the result. And in Pandora's Box, you do everything live on the output. That, especially for theaters, gives you the advantage to exactly see the change of the color or the change of the whatever you create on the surface you're projecting on, or on the final result as you would like to see it. So that makes it really sexy and flexible in real time or in live environments. Widget Designer, exactly. You asked for Widget Designer. This is another tool, another program from us that we have now since 12, 13 years on the market. At the beginning, Widget Designer was mainly to build easy control interfaces. So having a PC with a simple touch screen, just hitting a few buttons, and don't having a complex timeline programming that maybe a stage manager or somebody in a ballroom doesn't understand. They just want to push a button and then something should happen. That was the basic idea of Widget Designer. But then very quickly, we saw that Widget Designer is our perfect connection point for any kind of triggers or commands going in and out to the system. So it's not purely for Pandora's Box. It can also trigger robots or house lighting, fans, curtains, whatever you can think about, or whatever is triggerable by any command. So it could be something easy like a UDP command up to Modbus connections or something else. Here, another small 2-minute video to explain it in full depth in detail. Here you go.
What is CHRISTIE Pandora's Box Widget Designer? Imagine having complete show control, where you can easily and quickly connect all your sources and displays with a single powerful interface. CHRISTIE Pandora's Box Widget Designer is an intuitive software tool that is used to build customized show control applications that perfectly meet your needs. from simple control to large-scale monumental events. How does Widget Designer work? Using its intuitive visual interface, you can easily build a powerful control dashboard by simply connecting components or by using our simple scripting engine. Easily connect your external devices and create a custom control interface. You now have control of all your devices, individually or as a group. Widget Designer then translates all the different protocols to let them interact with each other, automatically or on demand, with single or multiple controls, such as tracking systems, industrial sensors, PCs, tablets, or even gaming controllers. It seamlessly connects to Pandora's Box, but independent standalone applications can be built as well. On the back end, you can build an entire monitoring system for your technical setup. For example, checking the status of your projectors, servers, matrices, or any other network devices in your system. Whatever your next project is, Pandora's Box Widget Designer provides all the tools needed to create the ideal control solution to deliver a perfect show. Connect and control. Now the show can begin.
So this is really explaining good what Widget Designer can do. Maybe a good example is on one side, cruise ship industry. We are on a lot of different cruise ships. Pandora's Box is used in Widget Designer. And for example, on the latest Royal Caribbean cruise ships, any public area is completely controlled by Widget Designer. So let it be lighting, let it be air conditioning, let it be the curtains and the windows. Nearly half of the ship is controlled by Pandora and Widget Designer. Only the cabins itself, that is completely a different system. But even the basketball court on the upper deck, when you make the points for a team and change the name or their logo, this is all Widget Designer. Cool thing about Widget Designer as it is an HTML5 based programming interface. Whatever you build on your PC in Widget Designer is directly controllable by any smartphone, tablet that can open a browser in the network. So that's very easy then.
So take me through, what are the key differences between version 8, the newest version, and the previous version, version 7?
All right. I will need the help of a few PowerPoint slides for this to make it a little bit more visual and easy. Let's jump through this one here. So Pandora's Box, as I said at the beginning, a timeline-based programming. And with version 8, we made everything, I think there's a slogan, simpler and more powerful. So compared to the older version, we directly jumped from version 6 to version 8 as all the improvements and changes we did into Pandora's Box was not just a next step, it was a leap. So that's why we made the jump to version 8. We simplified it a lot. So in the past, we had just 5 or 6 different player licenses. A player license had a few restrictions in amount of layers, in 2D or 3D playback, maybe less effects, but it was, as already there were 5 different versions, it was sometimes difficult to actually really figure out what are the features of that player version and what are the features of that player version. And then on top of that, we had the server version that was always a hardware combined solution. Software-wise, there were no limitations, but you had the limitation that you always had to buy it with the hardware. That made sense in the past, where not everybody was able to build powerful PCs to run a proper show with, but nowadays, technology is just developed more and more. This is also different. So with version 8, we made it completely very simple, just one license that can do all, no limitations, either in content size, in layers, in effects or whatever, it can do all. And then separated from that, we offer hardware, but it's not locked or combined to any hardware anymore. So it's full decision of the customer where he wants to move, just buying the software and using their own hardware, or also acquiring hardware from us. It still makes sense for us to offer hardware, as I mentioned earlier in the stream, that we always certify our hardware for all regions, so especially in fixed installs, in long-term installs where the customer wants to have security and support and service. Our hardware is requested a lot. Also for big corporate shows, like really big names like Porsche or somebody else, they really ask for manufacturer hardware. They don't want to rely on some custom built hardware. But again, at the end, we give the choice to the customer and we don't force them, because they want to have all the features of Pandora's Box, but they have to buy a more cost-effective hardware from us. So this really simplifies the leap from version 6 to version 8. Looking at a few, well, I explained all this already. Looking at the benefits out of this, again, simpler, more powerful. This is a little bit our phrase now for version 8. As we remove the complexity, it just got easier and everybody is faster to understand. And I mean, let's do an example. You have a big museum install with 40 outputs. Then you have to buy, let's say, 42, 43 license, 40 outputs to be able to output on your displays, and then 1 or 2 managers or master versions in front to control everything. So we always have a network-based setup where I have master, and the master controls all your clients that are close to your outputs. And we have a function called multi-user since a few years now in Pandora's Box, so that several operators can work on the same show file at the same time. So having 2 or 3 master systems just makes it easier, faster to program. Or in a museum, you have one master in close to one server room and the other master in another server room, or however the setup is needed. But it just makes it easier. And this, of course, also opens us new market areas where in the previous models, none of the different versions, different license models we had fitted exactly, because either one feature was missing or it were way too many features in the other one and it was too expensive. So here, simply pick a license and it will do the job, and you can choose what hardware makes sense.
Thank you for making it easier. I always appreciate when you do that. So we've seen a bit about the product, and I want to get people engaged with this, and I keep hearing about the Online Connect event. Can you give me an idea what that is?
Yeah, beginning of this year, on the 8th of January, we actually did our Connect event where we did a 2.5 hours presentation of the new version 8 features. In the previous years of Pandora's Box, we did an on-site event called Connect, where we invited our biggest customers or most interested customers into Pandora's Box, and it was most of the time always a 2-day event where we really showed everything and did a big presentation, and also a big come together socializing is always important as well, and a lot of our users we call actually the Pandora's Box family. So this was always a very high appreciated event where really the people love to come over to Cologne and meet us here for 2 days. And we planned for this, we had the venue booked and all this, and then we all know COVID hit. So at a certain point, we just had decided to make it different, and we changed to an online event. I'm still standing more or less in the same studio we used for that event, and we did a streaming event. A good thing, of course, was it was way cheaper and easier for everybody. Nobody had to travel around the world to visit us. So a lot of people watched. It was a great event. We got a lot of good feedback, and all the orders and requests we are getting since then for version 8 is really awesome. We didn't expect that it would have such an impact in the market. We are proud and happy about the Connect event, and version 8 is going well. We just released version 8.2 1 or 2 days ago that has a lot of bug fixes and more feature adds for the mentioned features we added to version 8. So it's going good.
All right, so I'm one of those weird people that reads release notes. Yes, there are those people. And I've noticed, and I'm sure anybody else that will read those release notes, that your development team has been insanely busy. So maybe you could highlight a few of the really key new features of version 8.
Let's have a look. So a good thing about version 6 and then the leap to version 8 was in version 6 we did a lot of changes to the core of Pandora's Box. So we completely reprogrammed Pandora's Box in that time to be a 64-bit application and use the full power of now Windows 8 or Windows 10. We implemented a new render engine to just be able to play back higher uncompressed content up to 10 and 12-bit 444 and HDR content. That, of course, then is the Christie philosophy again with our new RGB laser projectors that can do 10, 12-bit uncompressed playback, that we can also feed the perfect content for this. And having this core ready, the development for version 8 was perfect for us, as most of the features we announced on the Connect event are already implemented in version 8 and just get some fine-tuning or some feature requests coming in from the users where we just add more functionality. Let's jump into a PowerPoint presentation and just have a look at a few more things about the features. NDI. NDI we have talked about a lot in the past already. It's a well-known protocol to run video over Ethernet in a normal quality, I would say. And more and more streaming programs now like Teams or other, I think Zoom as well, have implemented NDI so that you can directly take out the feeds and use them in your protocols or in your software as well. And that's what we actually did with Pandora's Box. So any NDI feed that gets detected in the network is directly available as an input source in Pandora's Box and then can be put on a layer and used and can be displayed. I mentioned earlier that we are also founder of the SDVoE Alliance, Software Defined Video over Ethernet. So what's the difference here? NDI is a compressed version or a compressed type of streaming network video files or screen sharing, whatever you do. It uses a 1G network. You can do many streams on a network. So it's very good for, I don't know, a TV channel on an exhibition. Now, of course, streaming thanks to COVID. And it's easy and simple to use. SDVoE more focus on high quality, uncompressed playback. It's very fast. It uses a 10G fiber network connection. And it gives you way more possibilities, as I mentioned earlier, to also transport audio, infrared, RS-232, USB. So, for example, in the Christie family, we also have input cards now in our projectors that are SDVoE. So you only run one fiber cable up to your projector. You can control it by network. You can send the images up. And Widget Designer can also directly read out the projector of lifetime, is the shutter open, turn it on, turn it off, and whatever you can trigger via network to a projector. So these both systems completely make sense and have a different usage, and both are implemented in Pandora's Box. Next feature is Notch. Notch is a real-time creation software that builds particle systems or full 3D worlds where you can animate content and interact with it by tracking or by any outside command. So it's an external program, and we also implemented it completely into Pandora's Box that you can program it on your timeline and trigger out of Pandora's Box or Widget Designer. And we actually completely implemented every possible parameter of it, depending what the Notch designer offers you or what he opens up to be allowed to control. So that we really have a full implementation and it's easy to use with Pandora's Box. Next feature, we're doing a feature run here now, is Dante. So there are different possibilities how you can work with Dante and play out audio. You either have a Dante license that you install on your computer, but then it's only on this computer, on that hardware where you installed it. Or Dante, of course, also offers audio cards that you install on your computer, and then you can play out Dante over this audio card. We actually sit together with Ordinate and discussed how we could change this, especially with version 8 being a software solution. And we came up that the Dell license is activated and bound to your dongle. So wherever you plug your Pandora's Box license into your computer or in our hardware, you directly have 32 input and output channels of Dante available on that machine, but it's not bound to the hardware as the normal philosophy of Dante is. So it makes it very easy and flexible, especially for rental stages or changing situations in our business every day, to use it very flexible. Of course, for our hardware, we also offer the Dante card as extension when you get up to 128 in and output channels and a redundant network port. But really that on our license, you have also an activated Dante license available at any time, makes it very easy and fast to use.
Thank you, Mike. You've given all of us some really great information about the new features, how it's used, and a lot of this is very software centric, as it should be, but something's telling me there's more to this story and that there is some new stuff happening on the hardware front as well. So let's talk about hardware quickly.
Yes, I'm happy to. And again, PowerPoint. Sorry, the sales portion of myself is getting more and more into this. The hardware, there it is. Okay, Pandora's Box hardware. We just announced the new server R5. It's the next step of our R4 server hardware philosophy. It's the same housing, the same device, but it is way more powerful inside. So we changed our performance kits models. So in the past, we had player hardware and we had server hardware. Now, as we make everything simpler, we took both hardwares and put them into one machine, and we offer so-called different performance kits. The performance kits depends on the size of the hard drives for the content playback, but by this also, of course, the performance or the amount of files you can playback at the same time. So as you can see here, the entry performance kit is around 960 gigabytes SSD drives, and the big PK3 is 32 terabytes. That sounds a lot at the beginning, but if you playback really uncompressed 10-bit HDR 444 content, this is just about an hour and a half content playback. And then if you have 2, 3, 4 outputs in one machine, actually that's not that much anymore. So here, but the storage is really needed to be able to playback such content. Also, we now offer different type of graphic cards. So in the past, we always used the NVIDIA P4000 graphic card. We now also offer the RTX 4000 and the RTX 6000 graphic card. These ones are needed when you do a lot of GPU-hungry use cases like Notch, what I mentioned earlier. We offer our hardware from 1 up to 8 outputs in total. By standard, it has a 1G and a 10G network port on the main board. So this is really a quite powerful machine. Comparing it to the old R4 server, in the R4 server, we had up to 5 PK5 performance kits. And the PK1 now more or less starts there where the PK5 in the old version ended. So it's really, again, a leap in performance and playback. We, of course, have optional input or output boards for the hardware. I already mentioned the graphic cards. And then input-wise, you can have 12G or 3G SDI input cards. We have dual HDMI or DisplayPort cards. Also a Tera SDVoE input card. That makes it quite interesting if you have a big SDVoE network. We can have any source that is available in the network is then also connected to the server. And this can be really big. For example, we have a university in Sweden that has more than 1,000 connections in the SDVoE alliance, and each of these 1,000 signals is then more or less available to route it into the media server and playback where you need it. So this makes it very interesting. And we have also implemented a new Flex card from DeltaCast. This means that you have a fixed card in your hardware, and then with different connection modules, you can choose what kind of input you want to have. So it could be HDMI, it could be DisplayPort, it could be 3G SDI, or a mixture of it. So that really makes it very flexible then what kind of inputs you want to use. And again, audio, I already mentioned the Dante card, but as we use ASIO audio, so digital audio, we also have possibilities to connect an ADAT audio card or a MADI audio card to the server. Then we also have another hardware called Compact Player. That's so a very small, half rack unit wide hardware that can also have up to 4 outputs. It has 2 network ports. So this is really for digital signage, small events, standalone solutions in a museum. So this is really for smaller applications, or just using this hardware to run the master or widget designer on, as it's very small and tiny. It also has a VESA mount, so you can easily mount it behind a screen or in a counter or wherever. So this also makes it very nice to use. All right.
So with those new hardware updates, it really allows us to talk to customers that maybe hadn't seen Pandora's Box before, and maybe it was a little bit too large. But those new compact players really allow this system to go into smaller implementations, which I think is fantastic. It gives a lot of very powerful tools to some people that might not have such a large workflow like many of the other large event companies that you've worked with. So I'm excited about that, but there's so much more. This is really the beginning of the story. Let's talk about the PB menu and the Pandora's Box menu and what's going on there.
Yes, so the Pandora's Box menu is more or less your first experience with Pandora's Box, because when you boot up our hardware, this is what you see, and this is where you start using our hardware or Pandora's Box itself. So whenever you buy a hardware from us, the menu is installed on this, and here you can actually see the difference. So on the down right side, you see the old menu, and it was very, well, let's say 70s style. And now on the left, we have a new PB menu that is a bit more up to date with bigger icons and easier to use. So what the menu does is it helps you making Windows easier. I mean, if you have to set up network or different graphic card settings or whatever, sometimes you have to go in the 20th window somewhere down in the network settings to change just an IP port. And here, really, the menu helps to make it easier, and you can just push a button, and start Pandora or start the widget. You can also customize applications that you want to use with your system. So it just really makes your life easier. And the good thing about the menu is that it's also available in our download center for free. So we are not even restricting it to our hardware only. And we offer it to everybody who wants to work with it and wants to use Pandora's Box, as it just makes life easier and using the system.
So not just the PB menu has been updated, but also when we look at larger implementations that require server infrastructure, I'm guessing you guys have done a ton of work on that front as well. Give us an idea of how that server management piece has been developed.
Yes, correct. So in the past, this was called VNC remote. So everybody probably knows VNC. And also already in the past, you were able to build buttons and see if a server is online or not. But now in the new server management, we again went a step forward and, as you said, made it better or easier. Let's have a look at this as well. So here was the menu. Just a second. And so this was the old VNC remote and how it looked like. But now this is the new server management, where you can build your icons in the top and you can set up different pages for rooms or settings or areas you want to control. And then whenever in the list below, you see all your servers, what kind of resolution they have, they are connected to, if they are running as a master or a client. And when you click on them, you get even more information. And then by VNC, you could also log onto them again to change IP address or whatsoever. But you can also add other components. So for example, a network switch, as long as you are able, you know the IP address of the switch, you can set it up here as well, and it will give you feedback if the system is running. So it will ping it here and then just to see if a product is still alive. You could do this with network switches, with matrices, with projectors. So this really then helps you in big setups as a server farmer maybe, so a technician who just takes care about the technical run-up of your system, to have a quick and easy overview if everything is running and working proper. This also comes with the PB menu and is just makes your life easier.
So one of my favorite things about Pandora's Box is that it's really a box of possibilities, and you can get as artistic as you want with the platform, and you could really do some amazing customizations quickly and easily. But because it is an open box of possibilities, it's really hard sometimes to visualize where Pandora's Box is being used and who uses it successfully. So can you maybe highlight a few real-world scenarios of Pandora's Box and how it's being used?
One good thing about Pandora's Box was always that we are not only focused on one part of our business, and we always had a quite good balanced show up in every part. So theaters use Pandora's Box really a lot, as I mentioned earlier, with all the effects and the flexibility, and changing it on the fly in real time made it a very powerful tool in theaters. We are very strong in fixed installs, either on cruise ships or in theaters or museums, as again with limited amount of outputs and being able to control them very easy with the widget designer. Or Widget Designer also has features like a scheduler. So every morning at 8 o'clock, switch everything on, start with show, and every evening at 6 o'clock, switch it off. So this really makes it very, very powerful. Corporate shows as well, especially with now the uncompressed content playback that we have. All the big brands, they always want to have the best quality and highest and brightest images. So here we also used a lot. We lost some track in live events, in touring, in live shows, but especially now with the new version 8 features, we think that we gonna catch up and fill the gap we had there in the last few years. So there is really no restriction for Pandora's Box if you can use it here or there. Streaming, of course, got very strong in the last year again. We are installed in a lot of TV studios over the years, and now streaming is used a lot, as we do right here, using it. We won an Emmy Award a few years ago, also for the best broadcast media server in the industry. So this is probably also a good status.
That's fantastic. But with all these tools and all this great possibility, you know, the first thing that I start to think is, wow, this is big. This is a lot to learn. How am I going to wrap my head around Pandora's Box to help customers and to really start to get involved with the product? So with that, can you really explain to the audience what are the resources available to them to help learn Pandora's Box?
Yes, we have different possibilities what you can do. Of course, an on-site training is always the best. We have several training rooms, either in our Christie facilities in each region, so either in the US or in Europe or in Asia. But also a lot of our distributors have training rooms, and for us, a distributor or a partner is more than just a box selling partner. They have to have expertise. They have to know the system to be able to configure it proper. And most of them by this also offer trainings and love to give on-site trainings. Now, thanks again to COVID, we had to adapt. So very early last year, over the last years already, we implemented a lot of video tutorials. We did online trainings, we have webinars, so we have a quite big YouTube channel where you can do a lot. And now, since probably half a year, we can also do online trainings. So if you participate in one of the trainings, you really log onto a master and client systems that we have physical here in Cologne, and you control them from home. So it's not just a virtual environment you're working in, you're really working on physical machines. And this at the end is always a better experience than just imagine you doing this now. Now you can really do it live in our training setups. So again, webinars, online training, and then and live online training on units here in our facility.
Okay, before we get to the Q&A, and that's a really great reminder to start typing in any questions if you have any, because we'll be at the Q&A section in just a moment. Before we get there, though, Mike, I would like you to pull out your crystal ball and look into the future for me. So give me an idea of what we should expect from the Pandora's Box team, in the future.
As I mentioned earlier, as most of the features we announced in version 8 are already implemented and we are only fine-tuning, we are really at the beginning of a next step of our roadmap. Let's touch hardware first. Here we are looking to fill the gap between the small compact player and the big server, and filling in a hardware that really is there in the middle. So it will be something like a 1 rack unit high, 4 output device. So really filling the gap here and making the transition from one hardware step to the big one a bit easier. This will definitely probably aim for the fixed install market most of the time, but I could also see it in smaller corporate shows or smaller events where a compact player is not enough, but again, the big server is still just too much. And Pandora's Box wise, nowadays the people want to do even more live and tracking and interactivity, and there are a lot of times you hear the words Unreal or Unity beside Notch. So these are definitely also features we are looking at and we have on the horizon to implement. And that's probably the 2 most exciting things that are in front of us.
Awesome. Mike, thank you so much for all this great information, and thank you and your team for all the hard work, because these features are great, and I'm excited to get Pandora's Box into the hands of as many people as we can. So with that, let's head into the Q&A section.